And we are live. Welcome in, everybody, to the Fieldhouse Files live post-game show. I've been doing one of these for every single Pacers playoff game, and it's 6 and done in the first round. The Pacers needed that extra one tonight's game, but easily disposed of the Bucks 120-98, and really just had a stranglehold on the one-to-one matchup against the Milwaukee Bucks this season. I'll be posting this on the Fieldhouse Files podcast as well. But as always, appreciate everyone joining in. If you want to be part of the conversation, go ahead and leave your comment or question in the comments section right there, and I'll be sure to get to every single one of them. But what an outstanding game generally for the Pacers. They had their low moments. Start the first quarter to start the half. I think it was 13-2 to start the game, 7-0 or 7-2 maybe to start the second half. But ultimately, here's what it came down to. Home crowd was huge. Playing at home, the comfortability. The Bucks not having Giannis, not having that depth quite like the Pacers. Damian Lillard, I'm stunned. Both that he played and what he was able to contribute for the Bucks. He scored a game-high 28 points. He was one of 3 Bucks starters with 20-plus points, but it just was not enough. I'm just stunned, though. 28 points in 35 minutes, made all 10 of his foul shots, 7 of 16 from the field. I thought for sure at minimum he would be on a legit minutes restriction, something like 20 minutes. Like I thought, here's what I was expecting. Once we knew he was available 30 minutes before the game and would play in the starting lineup, I thought he'd play in the first half. I thought they'd see what he had, see if he had anything in the tank, see how he hung in there and what he was able to get done. Because remember, in the first few games, he had outstanding first halves. I think it was like 35 points in game one. Didn't score again then, like in the second half. And so I thought they would stick to that. Go off, do everything you can in the first half. After that, we're going to hang on without you because you have the cool down period at halftime. Maybe that has impacted him, whatever. The fact that they were able to get anything from him was a huge bonus. But this one was all about the Pacers. It was about their pace. They had 12 fast break points in the first quarter. They had 12 fast break points combined over the last 2 games. In the previous 5 games, they had 50 combined. In this one, they finished with 21. That was the difference maker here, as the Pacers were able to instill their style and dictate the pace, get out in transition. The first substitution of the game put Obi Toppin and TJ McConnell in there coming in off the bench, and they ran. Toppin scored 2 quick layups. McConnell, obviously, we'll get to him because he was the star of the game for the Pacers. Certainly Lillard played great, but Pacers won, and it was in large part due to the contributions from TJ McConnell, probably the most significant professional game of his career. Yeah, he had a triple-double. He's done some remarkable things for a guy that was undrafted and wasn't sure how long he would be in the league. Philadelphia didn't want him back. And now things get interesting, by the way. We have the ongoing series with the Philadelphia 76ers and New York Knicks. I'm pulling it up on my phone to kind of keep an updated score here to know what's going on in that series, because now we know the Pacers will advance, and it'll be Monday night will be game 1, but we don't know the location yet. If it's the Knicks, it'll be at Madison Square Garden, though. If it's the 76ers, it'll be in Indianapolis. And either way here, you have some fascinating storylines just from players, right? Obi Toppin going home to New York, facing his former team. On the other side, TJ McConnell, the star of Game 6, going back to Philadelphia, a team that didn't want to renew his contract, didn't offer him even an extension 5 years ago. He signed an extension even with the Pacers several years ago, was very valuable for this Pacers team throughout, had the best couple of months of his career leading into the playoffs. And then tonight, what he was able to do for the Pacers was significant. So I think it would be fun for him to get back to the playoffs. All right, a couple questions I'll get to on here. Billy Osborne just says, what's going on? Well, Billy, a lot of Pacer fans are excited right now after the 20th sellout of the season at Gainbridge Fieldhouse as well. That's notable. They had 7 sellouts last year. Pacers were undefeated against the Bucks at home this year. This team was 3-16 the last 5 seasons against the Bucks. 3-16, 5 seasons. This year alone, they met 11 times, and the Pacers won 8 of those meetings. Later on in here, I want to talk about TJ McConnell. I want to talk about Halliburton. Talk about the rotation. We'll probably hit on what we saw more in Game 6, and then that key run from TJ McConnell in the third quarter. Patrick Beverley, what are you doing as well? That's ridiculous. Back to the comments. Damon maybe says, you know what channels Fever will be playing on? I do. It just depends on what game. If you're talking specifically about tomorrow night, Friday night. By the way, I love your excitement for that team, considering Pacers just won their biggest game in the last decade. But tomorrow's game, Fever's first preseason game, Caitlin Clark's debut, will be on WNBA League Pass. And as I reported earlier tonight, it is free. So you will not need a League Pass subscription to watch either one of the Fever's preseason games. CMNT, do you think Pat Bev will get suspended? I think you have to. This is more than a fine to me because it involves fans. There's a couple things that the NBA doesn't mess around with. First of all, it's its integrity, right? Betting, Jonte Porter, banned. You can't mess around with the game and seem to suggest or have any kind of influence. And he clearly did, betting on himself, betting on his under, and then removing himself, saying my eye hurts, or you have other conversations like that. That's concerning. And then the other thing is the fans, right? You kick a ball into the basket stanchion, it's an automatic technical. You go into the stands, it's an automatic suspension. He threw a ball not once, but at least twice. I haven't watched the full video at the fan. And I think I saw one Pacers fan either get pulled out or at least confronted by a couple officers. That's kind of where the video ended. To me, it looked like he was pissed off because his wife, girlfriend, significant other was right next to where the ball was thrown. Maybe he felt like it was coming at her. And yeah, absolutely, he would be concerned with that. So I totally understand that. I do think he should be suspended. I'm not sure if Adam Silver will levy something on him, though, in terms of that. What else we got? Yeah, a lot of people answering. What's up, ANBM? I wish you'd use your real name so I would know what's going on. Yes, Fever. Got a lot of Fever fans, probably because all my videos covering the Fever here in the last week. It's incredible here. Yeah, Max, I will be doing more Fever content. No doubt about that. But for quick Fever fans on here, Friday night at Dallas. You can watch that for free on WNBA app, their WNBA League Pass. I will have more videos to come. I will be covering those games because there is absolutely, without a doubt, more interest in Caitlin Clark and the Fever this season than the Pacers. No doubt about that. And I've been covering the Pacers for 12 years. And so this, going back to the Pacers now, first time in 10 years that the Pacers have advanced in the postseason. Much needed. Good to see that, especially for the fan base. And especially for Miles Turner. I haven't talked about him yet, but Miles has been through the ringer here. He was drafted in 2015. Guess what? That was right after the postseason. So Miles, giving everything he has to this franchise, signing 2 contract extensions, has never won a first-round series until tonight. I think that's notable and something he should absolutely be proud of. Quick update in the Knicks-Philly score. How about this? The Knicks jumped ahead. I want to say it was like 28-3 is what I saw, I thought. The 76ers, a minute before halftime, are currently up by 1. So I'll put that away for now. But Pacers get the win. Again, beat the Bucks 8 of 11 times this season. How about this? I love this note. Game ball the Pacers, right? We had all that debacle, all the different antics from the Bucks this season. Game ball gate. GM Chad Buchanan taking an elbow to his rib, stomach region. That was up in Milwaukee. We had Bobby Portis getting ejected a couple of games. We had Malik Beasley saying to Chris Haynes after the in-season tournament that if the Pacers and Bucks meet in the postseason, it's going to be rough sledding for the Pacers, basically saying, hey, they don't know what's coming at them. Then you had the Patrick Beverley stuff, not involving the Pacers tonight, but involving the trash talking, the shove, the Obi Toppin issue in the last game. Hey, appreciate the subscription, A&B. Also, check out fieldhousefiles.com, my Substack. You'll want to subscribe there for Pacers and Fever content. MK Sinks, 6 for 6 on the postgame show. I appreciate you. He says, what an amazing game to experience in person tonight. Pacers winning every quarter just shows you how much it is to take care of business. Leave no doubt. Yeah, and that's exactly what I wrote at Fieldhouse Files on my At the Buzzer column. They left no doubt. They took care of their business. They won every quarter. Transition points 21-6. How about this? The Pacers hit their free throws, 15 of 17. They didn't even shoot it well from three-point land. And so many people talking about the Pacers can't win if they don't shoot 50% from three or shoot well from three. They didn't tonight. 13 of 40. That's 33%. And they still won. So you got to take that. Yeah, I forgot about that. You're right. Wheels on the bus go round. I seemingly suggesting this is a young, childish team. Is not the answer on here, reminding everybody that's the song Wheels on the Bus that the Bucks played at Fiserv Forum before the Pacers were introduced, the starters, in the previous games. That was bizarre to me. I don't understand that. I don't get that. Why? I mean, what purpose does that serve? I did think it was interesting tonight at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. The Pacers normally have the DJ just play a variety of songs. I could get in the weeds here, but long story short, the Pacers would have to pay music rights if they play just one song for the Open. So normally you make a mix of it, kind of like a radio edit, and you don't have to pay that. Well, tonight, notably, as they led into team introductions and then getting to team introductions, the Pacers played Eye of a Tiger. Very curious if that was the suggestion of any one player or coach or anything like that, because that stood out to me. Anything like that, that's one of my specialties. The details, things that are different, those are the things that stand out. Thanks for the halftime update score, Max. Sixers leading by 3. That's fascinating. Sixers win. It'd be what, game 7? I believe, in that series. Yeah, absolutely, because the Knicks should have closed them out in game 5, did not. If the Sixers hold on, that would be game 7 on Saturday. That would be great for the Pacers too, because while they'll now have 3 days between games, they should have had 5 if you handle your business in game 5. Pacers have at least 3, will have 3 days between games. And if the New York Knicks lose this game, it'll go back to New York. I think game 7 would be on Saturday. Now, they would be able to stay home should they win the Knicks and host the Pacers on Monday, but that's another game. That's exhausting, the pressure. The Knicks really need to handle their business tonight, and I think they will, although I haven't been able to watch any of this game, the flow or anything, other than seeing the Knicks took the early run on there. Let's go to the star of the game, because I can't say enough about TJ McConnell and what he's meant to this team, this franchise over the last 5 years. How about him starting the season out of the rotation? I didn't understand that, but he accepted it. He acknowledged it. He goes, look, if that's what Rick Carlisle and the Pacers need from me, I'm good with it. He didn't raise hell. He didn't say the wrong things. I remember having a conversation with TJ outside the locker room in Cleveland in game 2, because guess what? Second game of the season, the Pacers had a first quarter that was going wrong. It was a very slow first quarter. If you've watched this team all season, you know first quarters don't go quite well for them. They threw TJ McConnell in there, instant offense, instant energy, and he lasted out of the rotation for 1 game. Yet through it all, had an incredible run after the All-Star break. February, March, April. Now we're into May. And by the way, I didn't even mention it in my column, but I'll get into it in my next one. This is a really fun time now in Central Indiana, because yes, you have the Pacers, but you also have IndyCar starting up. So we will have Pacers and racers. But on top of that, as a lot of my followers, I've gained like 2,000 or a couple thousand subscribers just on YouTube this week alone, the last few days, because of Fever. You have Caitlin Clark in the Fever going on right now. So Pacers, racers, Fever, great time to be a sports fan, like so many of you are right here in Central Indiana. But McConnell, a special performance from him. I got to write about him in the next couple days. I'll probably write about Obi Toppin as well. Those two absolutely deserved it. Those two played really well, starred in their role. And I think that's something that is important for reserve players to understand. You don't have to be the star. You don't have to be a starter. But see tonight how if you star in your role, you can be tremendous and you can make a difference and you can have an impact. And that's what you want if you're one of those reserves. Hey, that's pretty cool. Dean jumps on here, says Buddy Hield 17 points in this first half, pushing Philly to game 7. Yeah, potentially. I mentioned earlier, obviously, the storyline could be the fact that TJ McConnell faces his former team in the 76ers, a team that got after him. Well, you would also have the matchup of Buddy Hield facing his former team. He's in his first playoffs for the first time. TJ McConnell with the Pacers in the playoffs, making an effort, and he'd go against Buddy Hieldwood, his former team, and his best friend in Tyrese Halliburton. So that would be a lot of fun. I'd like to see it either way. I think the best case scenario for the Pacers here would be the 76ers. I think the most intriguing matchup, most fun as a fan of the game here is I want to see New York and the Pacers. A lot of that just due to I think they're the two best teams. I think it's fascinating. It would be to see the two very different playing styles. Pacers want to score a lot of points and play fast. The Knicks, on the other hand, it's going to be physical. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a grinded out. But physicality would be the biggest thing. And I don't know if the Pacers are ready for that it would get to that level. On top of that, it's Madison Square Garden. It's the Mecca. And it would remind all of us of the rivalry back in the day. I don't think the Pacers have a rival right now. And on top of that, I don't think there are many rivalries going on in the league right now. It's more fans rooting for individual players, much more so than teams, and teams haven't played each other enough to establish a rivalry. I never called Pacers Bucks a rivalry because the Bucks had dominated the series over the last 5 years. I have a lot of new people in here. I got more people will be listening on the podcast, so I want to repeat this stat. Pacers this season against the Bucks, they played an astounding 11 times, including 5 times during the regular season. The Pacers won all 5 meetings at the Fieldhouse. They went 8-3 against the Bucks during this season. The previous 5 seasons, they went 3-16. I think it was 3 season sweeps within there. So it's fair to say the Bucks completely owned the series over the last 5 years. This year, entirely belonged to the Pacers. And also will be interesting is what level of changes the Bucks make this year at the end of the season now, because due to their play against the Pacers, it was kind of the Pacers leading the Bucks to make several different changes across the season. Their in-season tournament loss to the Pacers in Vegas led to a team meeting and some bad stories about what was going on in the locker room regarding Adrian Griffin and his hold of the team. Bobby Portis might have been involved in that as well. A few weeks later, Adrian Griffin fired. Doc Rivers replaces him. Game ball gate. Bobby Portis ejection. So the Pacers had the Bucks numbers this season, which was a very different sighting than the last 5 seasons. 120-98, the final. Thanks to everyone for joining this Pacers live post-game show. Pacers Racers, Hicks versus Knicks. Yep, absolutely. That's something good on. You're right. What else we got? Pacers bench. Yeah, they were really good. 19-1. They outscored them in the first half and ultimately in the game, getting huge contributions. What was it? 50. Yeah, I think as you said, to 10. Depth did not win the series for the Pacers, but they absolutely won this game. Stars won the series, I still believe. What Pascal Siakam did early on, what we saw Tyrese Halliburton do a couple of the games. Still not 100%. I know this 3 days between games will be very good for his back to get some rest, to lay low, not get much physical work on it, but he should get physical therapy done and stretch that out, work it out, and make sure he's good to go for Monday. But the bench was very impressive. Good point, MK Sinks. To me, the overriding factors in all this is the Pacers elevated and rose to the moment. The crowd helped them. The Pacers' pace was fantastic. They got out and run, had a lot of success there. 21-6 was the fast break point difference. On top of that, they attacked. They got to the paint, outscored the Bucks by 12 in points in the paint, and the Pacers won the rebounding margin. To me, those were the key areas coming in. And whether the bench scored, whether it was the starters, to me, that didn't matter. I would have liked to see them go at Pascal Siakam more often. He had a 9-point, I think, third quarter. But I liked his matchup against Bobby. Miles Turner, by the way, I should have mentioned, he had a monster, I think it was game 3, I want to say 29 points. So he helped win you one of those games. The bench was the one that helped you win in this one. Max says, I think 76ers is right who the Pacers want to play unless Embiid gets healthy. Yeah, that's not happening. He hadn't been healthy all season, unfortunately. I love to see teams at full strength, Pacers included. I would really like to see Benedict Mathurin out there getting this valuable playing time. New York, Pump says, New York probably sweating the Pacers. I prefer the Pacers play the 76ers. Yeah, I think that's absolutely the case because you don't know what Embiid's status is. Not only is he dealing with a torn MCL or something like that, knee issue, like he almost has his entire career, but he's got Bell's palsy. And if you remember my work back in 2019, I wrote about Naz Mitru-Long, who was on a two-way deal with the Pacers, and he really couldn't play due to Bell's palsy. And I'm sure there's different varieties of cases, some more intense than others. He was very limited in what he could do and didn't do much on the basketball court for several months, if I remember correctly, ultimately. Well, what Embiid's doing, he's playing through that, battling through that, and able to help the 76ers keep this a series. I thought the Knicks would win in 5 games. Really should have. They were up, 5 points in the final minute. Then made some inexplicable decisions there, got to overtime and lost it. Really, the Pacers and Knicks both should have handled their series in 5 games. And then that series wouldn't have began until, and both teams would have been better off. Granny Danger's back, says Pacers lost game 5 to help boost the local economy. Well, they did help the local economy and close out at home. That, yeah, you don't do that. You don't want to put anything to the test. You want to finish the series when you can. I appreciate the thought, though. It's more of a funny joke. Max again says Pascal's such a good pickup. He can really get hot. Absolutely. I think it all depends on the way in which you use him. Because one of the things that concerns me a little bit moving forward, based on what we see here, just in general, is Pascal plays a little bit differently, or not a little bit, plays differently than Tyrese Halliburton. Tyrese wants to be one of the fastest teams, one of the fastest players in a series. Pascal, meanwhile, more methodical, more in the half court, more back you down, more mid-range, really good mid-range players. Most players you do not want taking mid-range shots. Don't force it. Go for layups, go for threes. That style that I think Daryl Morey and the Houston Rockets really established. Maybe it was Mike D'Antoni helped do that down in Houston. With Siakam, you're good with the mid-range. Tonight, Pascal, what do you have? 9 of 15. It didn't feel like a big Pascal game, right? 9 of 15 from the field, 7 rebounds, 19 points, and it didn't feel all that impactful or large. But it was. But it didn't feel that way, and that's the thing you like, I think, if you're the Pacers. And obviously, he will be a free agent at the end of the season. Both sides want to continue this marriage, but they will have to agree on a contract extension that is fully expected to be a max deal. It's just a matter of how many years is what I'm curious about here moving forward. Again, anyone else, feel free to chime in with either comments or questions on this YouTube chat. I appreciate everyone joining in. If you're new to me, welcome to the YouTube channel. I'm Scott Agness of FieldhouseFiles.com. Been around the Pacers since 2003. I've been on the beat as a reporter, longest of anyone on the beat, going back to 2012. In fact, I'm the only one on the beat that it was around the last time the Pacers won a series. That was under Frank Vogel back in 2014 on a team led by Paul George, back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals appearances. Those were some fun years covering that Pacers team because of the unique personalities, because of the unique creativity of that team. You had George Hill, Lance Stevenson, David West, Roy Hibbert, Paul George. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, Max, I agree. Get Pascal the ball and good things will happen, no doubt. RC Crazy About Women's Hoops says, I'm a Pacers and Timberwolves fan. I'm in my own little heaven right now, as you should be. No doubt about that. So you should enjoy this. I will tell you here in a second. Man, right now, the series I'm looking forward to most is Minnesota and Denver. That's going to be the series of these entire playoffs and potentially decides, in my mind, who is NBA champion. I think those two are the best teams in the Western Conference very clearly. I think OKC will make a run, but not put them over the top. And then ultimately, it depends on what do the Celtics look like. Because I think the Celtics are the team to clearly be beat in the Eastern Conference. It just depends on their health situation. I'm fully expecting to see Denver, Boston in the NBA Finals. That's what I'm looking for. But right now, the Pacers are feeling themselves as they should after this monster Game 6 victory. I appreciate, again, everyone joining in. Max wants some fever talk. He says, can you say how well Caitlin gets – I got the heart in the way. I can't read. Gets the ball to Boston in the post or on the break. I think quite well. Appreciate the question here on a Pacers post game, but I know what you're here for. Totally. Those two are working on their chemistry. I've seen them in practice now for 4 or 5 games. they're going to continue to establish chemistry. It's not going to be an immediate thing. I think it's something that takes a couple of months to be sure. I think those two will have as much instant chemistry as you can. Yeah, all Aaliyah has to do is take off, run, and Caitlin will find her. Yeah, I couldn't say it better myself, quite frankly. Well said, RC. Caitlin's vision is incredible. That will translate. Her shooting's incredible. That will translate. I do want to keep this more focused on my Pacers coverage, but I have seen a lot. You're right. I think it'll be on the everybody else to learn Caitlin's tendencies because Caitlin will fire them the ball. And I think learning each other in the pick and roll, everyone, is something they're going to have to work on. She's making the right reads, but is everybody else ready for it? That's something I asked Caitlin about a couple of days ago in terms of have you had to tell teammates to be aware, or have they got caught and hit by the ball, not prepared for it? And she said a couple times, but it's something that we'll establish in due time. The thing I don't like, her first preseason game on the road, her first regular season game on the road. I think both of those games should be in Indianapolis. You open at home for Caitlin Clark. Let's get back to some Pacers stuff here on my live Pacers post-game show. If you're just joining in, you can watch a replay after it's done, or make sure you're subscribed to the Fieldhouse Files podcast as well. What's my guess on when game one will be if the Knicks win tonight? We know Knicks win or not, it will all be on Monday night. We just don't know the location. Knicks win, it's in New York. Philly wins, it's in Indianapolis. RC says, my very simple nickname for Tyrese Halliburton is Big Tyrese Halliburton. Normally, it's when he erupts big time. All right. I usually just go with Ty for his nickname. I don't think he has any great nicknames, and I don't call him Hallie. He's not a fan of that, so avoid that if you would. RC says, Scott, do you think the Pacers won because of Giannis and Dame's injuries? Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure the Pacers win the series if you go against a healthy Bucks team. I really don't. Now, the Pacers you saw during the regular season, they did. They had the upper hand. They won the majority of those matchups, only lost one of them, in fact. And so that would tell you that the Pacers probably would have won the Game 7 series. But in the playoffs, if you had a healthy Dame and a healthy Giannis, that's where I would have put my money on if you had to gun to head, make a bet, just because I trust those stars in the postseason, even if they didn't have that chemistry, knowing the fact that Tyrese wasn't healthy. Although, again, if you give them full health, you've got to give the Pacers full health. So Tyrese would be out there and Benedict Mathurin would be out there. But that didn't matter because those weren't the circumstances. I'm still impressed what Dame was able to do, that he even attempted to come back. I thought that was kind of foolish, quite frankly, both on his part and on the Bucks to give it a chance just because of the risk. And I wasn't willing to risk it if I was in charge, just considering that what was at stake and how the Bucks would have had to win 2 more games. But I think the Bucks probably trusted themselves and trusted the thought that if they could just get the series back to Milwaukee, they like their chances in this one. CMNT says, speaking of Mathurin, do you think he will come back if the Pacers somehow get to the finals? Wow, that's a huge hypothetical because you have not 1, not 2, but 3 series more before you want to see him. You'd have to win 2 more series to get to the finals. Excuse me. No, I don't think so. And why I say that? Because I'm not expecting to see him at all this summer with Team Canada. A shoulder surgery like that, you are out for months. He had shoulder surgery, I think it was in early March, if I remember right. This season is kind of all gone together to me. But with Mathurin having surgery, that's like a 6-month recovery, 6-month recovery. I'm not expecting him to play with Team Canada. I am expecting Andrew Nembhard to be part of the Canadian national team training camp, just like Halliburton is with Team USA. But no, do not expect Mathurin to come out at all. So upcoming Pacers, again, next game will be Monday night. We just don't know where yet, either against the Knicks or against the Philadelphia 76ers. So that was the next matchup. McConnell shined, Obi Toppin shined. And I also want to highlight another player, Andrew Nembhard, quietly. Again, that's the thing you love if you're a Pacers fan about tonight's performance, because it felt like outside of those 2 bench guys, everyone else's performance was kind of quiet, and yet they produced. Nembhard, 6 of 9 from the field if we're talking about offense, 14 points, 4 assists, 1 turnover. in a team high 37 minutes. And that doesn't even count what he does defensively. I will give myself credit. I said going into this series, Andrew Nemhard was the X factor, and I still believe that is true. In a closeout game, he contributed, was one of your top scorers on offense, played the most minutes, uh, did what he did defensively in his first playoff series of his career. I thought he was substantial. I want to see more from Neesmith. I thought he did well, could have done better. Middleton tonight held to 14 points on 6 of 15 shooting. In the offseason, it's going to be about defense. It's about tweaking the roster, consolidating roster spots, adding more defensive-minded players, because I think we'll see starting next series, defense is really going to be costly. They don't have any great defensive players. They have a couple good ones. I'd like to see better and more defense, and more asked of Siakam potentially defensively as well. Really, this team could use a 3-and-D type guy, I think, more than anything as well. And then you kind of have a complete roster to your liking, and you just want to see internal growth from Mathurin. Actually, one thing you need to figure out too is what you're doing at the center spot. Miles Turner will be under contract for one more year. Jalen Smith has an opt-out, and Isaiah Jackson under contract for one more year. He'll be extension eligible coming up here in July as well. Pump says, I see Mathurin as a real ceiling raiser for this team, but he has to learn how to maximize his output within the ball movement. Yep, I agree with all that. Yes, next game, Monday night, no matter what. No matter what, Pacers' next game will be Monday night, just to be clear. We just don't know who the opponent will be. Welcome, Corey, to the postgame show. Your first comment, do you think the Pacers will wear their city uniforms next round? Love the court, just tired of the gold for every playoff game. I certainly agree with you on the last part, mostly because that's not the good color. It's yellow. It's not gold. I love the gold pinstripes back in the day with Jalen Rose, with Reggie in the 2000s. That's the great color. I do not like these yellow uniforms nearly as much. I thought it was very weird that both teams wore the same uniform for all 6 games. I want to see the white uniforms for both teams. I'm a big old school proponent of seeing the home team wear white. In terms of the city uniforms, as someone put it to me, at least in the context going into the first round, is that the city uniforms were done, that we would not see them. I assume that meant for the playoffs. The individual could have been meaning just for the first round series, not even maybe thinking to anything after that. But I was told at that moment the city uniforms would not be worn again. Though prefacing, that was probably just in context to the first round. I would like to see them branch out and wear anything else but these yellow uniforms. I agree with you. I have seen other teams wear their city uniforms and an alternative court. I think the Minnesota Timberwolves did that. By the way, that's not a good uniform. They should not do that. For the Pacers, maybe a branch out to that. I would just like to see traditional uniforms. City uniforms is something, a regular season thing. It's to make those games a little bit more relevant, much like the in-season tournament court made those games different because it was eye-popping. I'd like to see the other uniforms, but I don't need to see the city court. Clark says, if the Pacers offered Obi a contract similar to Neesmith, does Obi accept, or can he get more on the open market? I think he would accept that. That'd be $11 million. I'm not sure. I don't think he'll get $11 million this offseason. Now, maybe he'll have a playoff push here because of his contributions and all that. But you got to remember, a lot of the teams don't have the money that they used to have. A lot of the playoff teams that want to spend money or willing to spend money to go over the tax and those sorts of things, they're in dangerous positions because they cannot do that and sign a player like him because they're in the first or second apron, part of the new collective bargaining agreement. I won't spend all the time on something so nuanced than that, but I haven't got a full picture of what Obi could command on the open market. But here's the other thing. The Pacers should not be worried because they can re-sign Obi. They have the option to match any deal out there, right? Because he's coming off his rookie deal. Those rights transfer with him. Those bird rights transfer with him coming over from the Knicks. So if X team offers him $8 million per, then the Pacers have the right to match that deal. And right now, I think they would. Given it's not something outrageous, but I don't expect that at all. Just because that's the thing now as a rising team that's going to have to pay Siakam, who's contract with Halliburton kicks in on July 1, one of the best weapons now you have is re-signing your own with bird rights. Because if you don't and you're over the luxury tax, you can't go out and pay a guy significant type money, maybe veteran minimums, those different things, mid-level exceptions. It all just depends on the team's individual circumstances. The real question mark to me is Jalen Smith, and we need to probably should save this for a postseason conversation. But look, he had no impact on the series. He was your backup center for much of the year. Started in some games, but if you're Jalen, what do you value? Do you value this current history, this current system, playing with Rick Carlisle, being the backup and knowing you have that role in the regular season at least? And you would be under contract for one more year if he exercised his player option of the 3-year deal that he signed? Or can you get equal or more money in the free market? It wouldn't take much because I think he's earning about $4.5–5 million next year. Could you go get a 3 for 21 in a new situation? But would you start? What is that coach's belief in you? Are you on a winning team or are you on a complete rebuild like up in Detroit, who seems to love all the bigs? I'm going to push most of that conversation into the offseason. But Obi Toppin, Pacers can match any offer. You're not worried about that. Pascal Siakam, the Pacers have his bird rights, so they can offer more than any other team in match offers. But I fully expect that to get done, barring any last-minute snag. That's why you trade for him, because you're not able to sign a guy like him in free agency. And what I mean by that is no all-star level player like Pascal is, a guy that can win you a series, a guy that has been a couple-time all-star, that has won an NBA title. That guy's never elected to sign with the Pacers in free agency. And so you got to go get that guy in a trade, and that's exactly what they did in a deal with the Toronto Raptors there at the trade just before the trade deadline. Pacers left no doubt in this one, winning all 4 quarters. I thought that was impressive. Keeping Middleton to just 14 points, noteworthy. I think you're good with Lopez getting 20. Portis, 20 and 15, a little concerning to be clear. And now a lot of question marks now moving forward with the Milwaukee Bucks. You will have Doc Rivers make coaching changes. I already know a couple assistant coaches that are interested in joining his staff up in Milwaukee, to be sure. So this year he wasn't really surrounded with what he wanted. It's tough for players to come in mid-season. Think about a coach coming in mid-season without his coaching staff, without a training camp, without a full awareness of what a team does. I was stunned by that. But also, you get a contract like Doc Rivers got from the Milwaukee Bucks. There you go. And while I'm surprised he left broadcasting, because that's a cush job, he was on the finals team, you're getting good money, you never lose a game. Trouble is you also never win a game. And there's also something special about being part of a team. And I miss that even myself. I'm a solo guy. I run all my work, fieldhousefiles.com, Fieldhouse Files podcast, do freelance stuff to be sure. But this is my baby. I don't have teammates. I do miss that. And I'm sure Doc Rivers did too, although he did have his ESPN teammates, for example. Quick check on score. Philly up by 10 on New York, 71-61. And let's check on old pal Buddy Hield. Off the bench, 17 points still. That was in 12 minutes of action. So that's fascinating. It looks like we might have a game 7 coming up on Saturday, even though that still has a ways to go. Ty still not looking for his shot. Nick's going to eat the Pacers' lunch. I feel better about the 76ers. Yeah, I don't think Ty's exactly looking for a shot for a number of reasons. For one, the team's better when he's the engine, when he's the hub, when he's getting others set up. Now, tonight he only had 10 assists. You want him to have more like 12 assists. But also this is a game where other players had it going. And when TJ McConnell had it going like he did, that meant it was interesting. That meant you leave Tyrese on the bench. And so that notable run by the Pacers with McConnell scoring, I think, 10 of 16 points over maybe a 6-minute stretch into the third, start of the fourth. Ty watched all that. It was Nembhard, it was McConnell, the guards in on that play, which allowed Halliburton to rest and also empowered those guards to go feast, go get their own. And going into this series, he's had some big games against the New York Knicks. Oh, goodness, I just thought about it. If you play the Knicks, guess what storyline reappears? Wally Szczerbiak, that fake wannabe all-star. Hopefully we can put that to bed now. I tried to do that and having my one-on-one conversation with Zerbiak earlier this year at Gainbridge Fieldhouse after a game, after Tyrese, two-time All-Star. Let's put that one behind him. But that inevitably, I know, will come up. We do know with the Knicks, Julius Randle will be out, much like Mathurin. He had season-ending surgery, so that changes that dynamic and tilts that a little bit more into the Pacers' favor, even though I believe the Knicks would still be favored in that series. Not just because of the home court either, even though they would if they get past the Philadelphia 76ers. I want to see how Embiid's doing. Oh, he's killing. 29 points, 12 rebounds with the 76ers on top. I don't want to get too much into that game or it'll date this post-game show. And again, appreciate all of you who have joined. I'll take a few more questions or comments here before going off this live. But just well done by the Pacers. I'm happy for Pacer fans out there. I've gotten a lot of texts from friends who are checking in, excited. I had a buddy text me, I think, during that McConnell run, doing the old Slick Leonard, turn out the lights, the party's over. It was good to see Nancy Leonard back for the second straight game at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. She deserves to be right there and in support of this team after kind of being away from the team due to health stuff over the last month or two, but it's important that she is there. Happy for the coaching staff able to get their first win as a collective here with the Pacers. And Rick Carlisle and his bunch, Jenny Busick, Mike Weiner, who came with him from Dallas, they hadn't won a playoff series since all the way back in 2011 when they won the title. I guess Jenny didn't join until like 2019. So this specifically is more Rick Carlisle and Mike Weiner. But it has been since 2011 since Rick Carlisle, who inevitably I think will be a Hall of Fame coach and voted in. This is the monkey off his back a little bit to have that behind him, but more so this Pacers team. They had Victor Oladipo and couldn't get past the first round. They had all those challenges. They had Sabonis, but it's Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam, and this collective that helps and empowers the Pacers past the Bucks in this first round series. Not an upset, even though the seeds and the home court advantage speak of it. But I don't think that's at all the case. Brandon says time for Giannis to come to the Bulls. I don't think that's happening. One, what are the Bulls doing? Blow it up already and rebuild. They've been in no man's land since Derrick Rose back in like 2011. Would love to see the Bulls be competitive again. It's better when the league when they're competitive again, just like it is when the Knicks are competitive. But Giannis just signed an extension last offseason. Remember after they traded away Drew Holiday for Damian Lillard? He re-signed. That's a big reason that was important. The rest of this playoffs will be interesting. Again, as I said earlier, I think it was to RC Hoops maybe. Anyways, the series I'm most interested in here moving forward is Denver and Minnesota. You have the team that's won it versus the team that is hungry as hell and the rising star, American star, and Anthony Edwards. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch. But, of course, this Pacers team will be the one I will primarily, of course, being covered. We have IndyCar coming up, Fever stuff. Preseason starts on Friday. On top of that, already looking ahead to the draft, too. It's May 2nd. I'll be in Chicago here in a couple weeks for the draft combine going on in Chicago. So that will be interesting to watch as well. Pacers do not have a first-round pick, but they do have 3 second-round picks that we can talk about when the time comes. I'll wrap up this live post-game show. I appreciate everyone for joining in, even the Fever fans who have subscribed in the last few days because of my Fever content, which has gone wild, by the way. Over 1 million views this week alone, and the week is not even over yet. Caitlin Clark, Caitlinomics, it is all very real. So basketball fans in Indiana have a lot to be cheering for, a lot to be happy about, and I'll have all the coverage for you here on my YouTube page, on the Fieldhouse Files podcast, and as always, more specifically at fieldhousefiles.com. So if you haven't done so already, make sure you are subscribed there. Grab a free or paid subscription to make sure you don't miss out on any content. Pacers win Game 6, 120-98. By the way, I should have mentioned this. In all 4 victories, points did matter. They scored at least 120 points in all 4 victories. It'll be New York or Philly on Monday. On Monday for sure. We just don't know the opponent. Thanks for watching the Fieldhouse Files live post-game show. I'm Scott Agness. Thanks for tuning in, and I will for sure talk to you again soon.